William Gilbert was an English physician, physicist and natural philosopher. He passionately rejected both the prevailing Aristotelian philosophy and the scholastic method of university teaching. He is remembered today largely for his book De Magnete. Gilbert was born in Colchester to Jerome Gilbert, a borough recorder. He was educated at St. John's College, Cambridge. After gaining his MD from Cambridge in 1569, and a short spell as bursar of St. John's College, he left to practice medicine in London and travelled on the continent. In 1573, he was elected a Fellow of the Royal College of Physicians. In 1600 he was elected President of the College. He was Elizabeth's first own physician from 1601 until her death in 1603, and James VI and I renewed his appointment. His primary scientific work, much inspired by earlier works of Robert Norman, was De Magnete, Magneticis Corporibus, et de Magno Magnete de l'Earth, published in 16. In this work, he describes many of his experiments with his model Earth called the Terrella. From these experiments, he concluded that the Earth was itself magnetic and that this was the reason compasses point north. Previously, some believed that it was the pole star or a large magnetic island on the North Pole that attracted the compass. He was the first to argue, correctly, that the center of the Earth was iron, and he considered an important and related property of magnets was that they can be cut, each forming a new magnet with north and south poles. In Book 6, Chapter 3, he argues in support of diurnal rotation, though he does not talk about heliocentrism, stating that it is an absurdity to think that the immense celestial spheres rotate daily, as opposed to the diurnal rotation of the much smaller Earth. He also posits that the fixed stars are at remote variable distances rather than fixed to an imaginary sphere. The English word electricity was first used in 1646 by Sir Thomas Browne, derived from Gilbert's 1600 New Latin electricus, meaning like amber. The term had been in use since the 13th century, but Gilbert was the first to use it to mean like amber in its attractive properties. He recognized that friction with these objects removed a so-called effluvium, which would cause the attraction effect in returning to the object, though he did not realize that this substance was universal to all materials. In his book, he also studied static electricity using amber. Amber is called electron in Greek, so Gilbert decided to call its effect the electric force. He invented the first electrical measuring instrument, the electroscope, in the form of a pivoted needle he called the versorium. Gilbert argued that electricity and magnetism were not the same thing. For evidence, he incorrectly pointed out that while electrical attraction disappeared with heat, magnetic attraction did not. Hans Christian Ørsted and James Clerk Maxwell showed that both effects were aspects of a single force, electromagnetism. Maxwell surmised this in his A Treatise on Electricity and Magnetism after much analysis. Gilbert's magnetism was the invisible force that many other natural philosophers seized upon, incorrectly, as governing the motions that they observed. While not attributing magnetism to attraction among the stars, Gilbert pointed out the motion of the skies was due to Earth's rotation, and not the rotation of the spheres, 20 years before Galileo. Gilbert made the first attempt to map the surface markings on the Moon in the 1590. His chart, made without the use of a telescope, showed outlines of dark and light patches on the Moon's face. Contrary to most of his contemporaries, Gilbert believed that the light spots on the Moon were water, and the dark spots land. Besides Gilbert's De Magnete, there appeared at Amsterdam in 1651 a quarto volume of 316 pages entitled New Philosophy about Our Sublunary World. Gilbert died on November 30, 1603 in London. His cause of death is thought to have been the bubonic plague. Gilbert was buried in his hometown, in Holy Trinity Church, Colchester. His marble wall monument can still be seen in this Saxon church, now deconsecrated and used as a cafe and market.